So I'm very hopeful this order puts that in perspective, and hopefully Donald Trump will immediately back down. The courts have ruled on the guard. They will be back under my command, and he'll be relieved. Donald Trump will be relieved of his command at noon tomorrow.
Señores, Donald Trump sigue acumulando derrotas en los tribunales. Como ya es de costumbre, ¿no? Cada vez que pierde, recurre a lo único que sabe hacer. Correr directamente a su red social, Truth Social, con esos diminutos deditos para desahogarse, gritar y quejarse. Básicamente, tener un colapso emocional en público. Eso es exactamente lo que estamos viendo ahora, porque acaba de recibir una bomba legal del momento. Una corte federal ha declarado ilegal su invasión de Los Ángeles. Hablamos de una gigantesca victoria para el gobernador Gavin Newsom de California. Sean bienvenidos a Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Señores, hoy veremos cómo Donald Trump recibe nuevamente un duro golpe legal cuando este juez federal declara ilegal el uso de la Guardia Nacional en Los Ángeles. Así que los invito a que se queden hasta el final de este video porque veremos los detalles más interesantes. Pues bueno, señores, empecemos por la noticia que lo inició todo. Un juez federal en California dictaminó que el despliegue de la Guardia Nacional, ordenado por Trump para reprimir estas protestas en Los Ángeles, fue completamente ilegal. Este juez, Charles Breyer, dejó claro que lo que ocurrió en Los Ángeles no fue una rebelión, y textualmente dijo que aunque hubo casos de violencia aislada, no existía una insurrección armada, organizada o abierta en contra del gobierno. Por lo tanto, pues Trump no tenía ningún fundamento legal para querer militarizar esta ciudad. Eso es exactamente lo que el gobernador de California, Gavin Newsom, explicó cuando respondió sobre esta victoria legal. Escuchemos.
Talking about some of the enduring principles of our founding fathers, who in response to monarchy, in response to King George, set out to frame a new construct to elevate and support individual freedom, liberty. They created a system of checks and balances, a separation of power, co-equal branches of government. Framework took the best of Greek democracy and the Roman Republic, and it has stood the test of time. Donald Trump has tested the limits of that and has done so consistently. But today's order makes clear that he is not above or beyond constitutional constraints. Constitution sets forth limits. The president is a constitutional officer. The president of the United States works under the Constitution. And so we are very gratified by this decision. His section that he asserted the authority to overrule the objections of a state governor. Clearly, in the 36-page order, those cornerstones that he claimed or asserted were not met. Section 12, 406, clearly there's no invasion, there's no rebellion. It's absurd. And so we're gratified. Today is a big day for the Constitution of the United States, for our democracy. And I hope it's the beginning of a new day in this country where we push back against overreach. We push back against these authoritarian tendencies of a president that has pushed the boundaries, pushed the limit, but no longer can push this state around any longer. A lot of rhetoric from Pete Hegseth, that's his name, that they've quote-unquote been deployed, but it doesn't appear they have been, but they were making you believe that. And so I think the judge was waiting for the evidence that they actually have been deployed into Los Angeles, which they appear not to be. Of course, they're not coordinating with anybody on this. So he's just waiting for that evidence. Obviously, they moved to another location for training exercises. But here's the bottom line. The police do policing. Military, it's for the battlefield. You know, the idea that these unbelievably brave young men and women that I work with that we have had the benefit of their extraordinary contribution all across this state. I gave you 3 examples. What more evidence do we need of the work they did during the wildfires in Los Angeles and all the work they did to secure locations and keep property and personal lives safe over the course of the last few months? These folks are now being commandeered to do ICE raids. You've seen the photographs. That ends tomorrow at noon.
Pues otro duro golpe para Trump. Pero sinceramente, amigos, alguien está sorprendido. Desde el primer día sabíamos que lo que ha estado haciendo es ilegal. Pero como siempre, para Trump, esto no era más que un show. Lo ha hecho antes, lo vimos en los primeros días de su presidencia. Actúa rápido sabiendo que la justicia lo va a frenar. Pero de todos modos esperando ganar puntos políticos, ¿no? Mientras tanto. Pues ahora le explotó todo en la cara porque, aunque si uno entra en Truth Social no pareciera que lo haya entendido, está totalmente descontrolado como podemos ver en esta publicación. Incompetente Gavin Newsom debería estar agradecido conmigo. ¿Agradecido por qué? Por querer militarizar una ciudad sin causa, por provocar aún más caos y desconfianza, por enviar fuerzas federales a atacar ciudadanos que protestaban. Lo más cínico de todo esto es que el mismo jefe de la policía de Los Ángeles ha dicho que fue la presencia de las tropas de Trump lo que provocó el desorden. No fueron las manifestaciones. Pero claro, Donald Trump y sus matones nunca asumen la responsabilidad. Usan máscaras, literalmente, ¿no? Porque saben que están haciendo algo mal. Pero bueno, tal vez no creen que deben de rendir cuentas. Alguien que sí lo entiende perfectamente es Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, y lo dejó muy claro con estas palabras.
You're getting a lot of grief from the majority here, but you know, we are talking about individuals who have cheered on an individual who issued a Nazi salute from behind the presidential seal of the United States of America, who have cheered on the pardoning of individuals who attacked the United States Capitol and flew a Nazi flag and the flag of the Confederacy, traitors to the United States, sworn enemies of the United States of America, through the capital of this nation. And now they want to act offended because someone has the courage to say, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. So I want to thank you for not wavering to their bullying, which is unconscionable and sad to see. So I just wanted to let you know that, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
To the 3 of you, Governor Walz, Governor Pritzker, and Governor Hochul, you 3 have each sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, correct? I'll start with you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that also includes the 4th and 5th Amendment protections for due process and the rule of law.
It does.
Sure does.
Yes.
And that means protecting your people in your states, U.S. citizens and every individual, because that is what makes America great, that we are a land of the free and of rule of law, to protect them from infringements of their civil liberties, correct? Now, what we are seeing is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant, largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his Social Security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go. In May, U.S. citizen Leonardo Garcia Venegas was filming an ICE raid. He was arrested by ICE. In May, a veteran and U.S. citizen who is Puerto Rican, was detained during an ICE raid at his workplace in New York City. That's called a paper bag test. And your job, Governor Hochul, is to protect people from that kind of infringement, correct?
Yes.
Because all of us must adhere to the law, and no one is above it. So if a U.S. citizen tries to break the law, or if an ICE officer tries to break the law, your job is to uphold the law, correct?
We absolutely uphold the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New York.
And sanctuary states are about U.S. citizens as well, having sanctuary against the attacks on our constitutional rights from illegal search and seizure. There is nothing preventing ICE from issuing a warrant and you having complete compliance with their request. Correct, Governor Hochul?
We comply in cases where there's been criminal activity alleged. Yes, we always do. But we're not involved in civil immigration enforcement because our state police that I control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
False.
And charges should be, for obstruction, should be brought against each one of you for doing this. I'll leave that up to the Department of Justice. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Chair,
Point of order, point of order. That was intimidation of the witness.
Do you have a point of inquiry?
Yes, I have a point of inquiry.
State your point.
Raising the prospect of charges against witnesses is a form of intimidation, is it not? Thank you. Thank you, and I withdraw the question. I appreciate it.
Y es por ello que siempre vuelvo a las palabras de Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. El problema no es que estas políticas sean populares. El problema es que trabajar más duro para que se vuelvan impopulares es el objetivo. Y eso es lo que aplica a todo lo que hace Trump. Su uso de la violencia, sus ataques al Estado de Derecho y esta retórica autoritaria. Hoy su plan de deportaciones masivas tiene más de un 60% de desaprobación. Y eso, amigos, lo llevó esta mañana a humillar públicamente a Stephen Miller, por si no lo vieron, ¿no? Su arquitecto principal en materia migratoria, y hasta anunciar que va a retroceder. ¿Por qué? Porque incluso Trump entiende que está perdiendo la batalla política. Pues bueno, amigos, pasemos al siguiente tema porque Los Ángeles no es el único lugar que ha explotado en problemas, ¿no? Pasemos a hablar sobre los recientes ataques israelíes contra Irán, señores. Específicamente cómo estas operaciones militares han sacudido el régimen iraní. ¿Y qué papel juega Estados Unidos, ¿no? Y Donald Trump en todo esto? El tema central no es solo la guerra en sí, sino cómo las palabras y las acciones de estos líderes políticos pueden llevar a escaladas extremadamente peligrosas. Para poder entender mejor este contexto, quiero que veamos esta noticia. Escuchen.
General Clark, this barrage of strikes seemed to take Iran by surprise, and we're getting more details this morning. The AP's reporting that Mossad, Israel's intelligence unit, was able to smuggle weapons into Iran ahead of these attacks that were then used to target its defenses from within. What does that tell you? What does the broader attack tell you about the level of sophistication within Israel's military?
Oh, it was extremely well done, and it's not over. The fact that they could get the drones in, that they could take out some of the retaliatory measures that Iran had, that they could take out remaining radars, air defense sites so that their aircraft could penetrate successfully. A very, very complex, very sophisticated operation. And I'm certain that the Israeli military understands that they've got to finish the job now. So it's not just a matter of knocking on the door of Natanz. You're going to have to go in there. You're going to have to take out everything. There are a lot of other sites, many of them underground, some located in positions where bombs and missiles can't get in there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Israeli teams in there on the ground in the coming days and weeks. And then you're left, Anna, with this question. So this is in a regime that for 45 years has insisted that its entire purpose of existence was to destroy the people of Israel. So I think if you were on the Israeli side, you'd say, we've started this, we're going to finish this. And I think it's going to certainly an effort to end it with regime change and put a much more Western, more friendly, more compatible group of people in charge.
Wow, that is taking it to a whole new level. But we have heard Netanyahu imply that they're going to take this to some kind of logical conclusion. We don't know exactly what that is. You mentioned Natanz specifically. I want to let our viewers know that that is the location of Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility. General Clark, let me come back to you, because as you look at the U.S. response to all this right now, President Trump has posted this morning on social media, quote, 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today is day 61. And then he also posted that the U.S. makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world, and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come. General, do you see a scenario here where the U.S. gets involved in this fight?
Well, first of all, I think you have to give the administration a lot of credit for moving the diplomacy forward. I'm sure the administration knew what Israel's plans were. And I know from discussions with people in the region that our forces are there, we're staged, we're ready to protect ourselves or do much more if necessary. So I think it's going to come out as a classic diplomatic military, which may reach a really successful conclusion. It's too early to say now. No one's mentioned Russia in this. Russia and Iran have a strategic relationship. Russia had earlier offered to take all of the enriched uranium out of Iran. Putin has played an important role in the Democratic administration's efforts in the 2015 agreement. Russia was critical in that. So we don't know where Russia stands on this as this goes forward, as more strikes continue, as pressure builds. We also haven't heard from the nations in the region. Are they concerned? A lot of airline traffic has been stopped. Straits of Hormuz, so far as we know, are still open. Oil shipments are continuing so far. So this is we're at the early stages of this in all probability now.
Iran's nuclear facilities being a big piece of this cure is, I think, concerning to so many of us. What type of safety concerns have arisen, given that at least one of their major nuclear facilities is now compromised? We know the International Atomic Energy Agency is monitoring the situation, right?
Yeah, it is. The UN watchdog, yeah, it is. And it does say so far there's no sign of increased radioactive levels. So that will be some reassurance. You don't necessarily, when you hit a nuclear site, cause a nuclear reaction, if you like. It doesn't necessarily, that's not necessarily one follows the other. You can understand why people would worry about that. But we have Now Iran's president saying a message to his nation today that Iran's legitimate and powerful response will make Israel regret its foolish act. I mean, that's what has people really most worried. In this region, for example, where I am in the Gulf, many of these countries have shifted in recent years from an adversarial relationship with Iran to a diplomatic relationship with Iran. But still, though, just as example, Jordan, there were reports from Jordan that some of those Iranian drones were shot down, and that will raise concerns that Iran might respond against some of the U.S. partners in this region.
Aaron David Miller is back with us now. I think, Aaron, we have your audio fixed. Just weigh in your thoughts on these strikes and the state of play in the region now.
I mean, look, I think this happened as a consequence of the fact that Israelis believe, this prime minister, that there would never be a better opportunity than to do this. They demonstrated escalation dominance over their enemies, including the Iranians. That is the ability of the Israelis to control the pace, the focus, the intensity of military action, and prevent their adversaries from escalating. We saw up a negotiation, basically acquiesced and enabled the Israelis to mount this extraordinary campaign. And now, having succeeded, the operation beyond, I think, the president's wildest expectations, he's now riding the tiger. So I don't expect any negotiations. The president continues to say, and they're holding open the possibility that the Iranians will show up in Oman to negotiate. But look, in the end, and General Clark, I think, said it pretty well, they've invested $5 trillion in this nuclear program. It has become a symbol of national prestige and honor, and now it's going to become an element of national security, because when all is said and done, if this regime stays in power, I suspect it will, the Iranians will probably make a decision to go all out in an effort to weaponize. And the Americans and the Israelis are going to have to figure out over time how to deal with that.
So clearly, Aaron, you see it a little bit differently than General Clark does, and General Clark sees this leading to regime change in Iran, that is the logical conclusion of days and potentially weeks more conflict. Aaron, how do you see this resolving if it isn't regime change?
Well, look, this is a war between two countries that do not share contiguous borders. The amount of damage that Israel can do, even though great, is separated by 1,200 kilometers. And the amount of damage the Iranians can do to the Israelis is limited as well. If the Iranians choose just to respond against Israel, do not attack American bases in Iraq, do not go after Saudi oil installations or American forces in the Gulf, I mean, I know this sounds counterintuitive because everybody thinks we're on the verge of a major regional war. I don't see that happening. It may well be. You are going to have a war. It's going to continue for months as the Iranians plot, try to triangulate using asymmetrical power and terror to attack Israeli targets. But I suspect this regime, having survived since '79, will likely continue in power. And what you're going to have, I think, is now a forever war waged on any number of fronts.
Ok, señores. Lo que acabamos de ver y escuchar es impresionante, ¿no? Hablan de cómo Israel logró infiltrar drones en Irán, neutralizando sus defensas aéreas, preparando el terreno para posibles operaciones más grandes. Yo creo que esto no es cualquier cosa. Estamos hablando de una operación militar extremadamente compleja y pone en evidencia la capacidad tecnológica y estratégica de Israel. Pero aquí viene la parte interesante, porque Donald Trump aparece en escena diciendo cosas como hoy es el día 61, ¿no?, de su supuesto ultimátum a Irán, además de presumir que Estados Unidos es el que fabrica el mejor y más letal equipo militar del mundo. Lo que hace es insinuar que Israel tiene acceso prácticamente a este equipo militar. Y ¿saben qué, amigos? Esto no solo es ruido mediático, esto es algo muy problemático. Primero porque Trump está tratando de posicionarse como este hombre fuerte, ¿no?, detrás de Israel, como si fuese su protector personal. Pero, ¿qué pasa si esta postura se lleva a una escalada mayor? Porque aunque Trump diga que no quiere involucrarse directamente, ya vemos indicios muy claros de que Estados Unidos podría tener tropas listas para intervenir si es que esta situación empeora. No se trata de una cuestión en política exterior, es el riesgo calculado que podría estallar en una crisis regional muchísimo más grande. Además, hay algo que me preocupa mucho más, y es que él menciona el cambio de régimen, casi como si fuese una conclusión inevitable, ¿no? Claro, puede sonar bien en un tuit tal vez, o en un discurso, pero amigos, la realidad es que cambiar un régimen político en Irán no es tan simple como apretar un botón. Estamos hablando de un país con 80 millones de personas, una historia bastante complicada, una ideología profundamente arraigada. Yo creo que si algo nos enseñaron las intervenciones estadounidenses en Irak o Afganistán, es que derrocar gobiernos sin un plan claro solo termina en caos y sufrimiento. Por cierto, algunos podrían salir a argumentar tal vez que un cambio de régimen sería positivo para esta región, especialmente, ¿no?, si es que se elimina un gobierno hostil como lo es el de Irán. Pero incluso si es que logras derrocar al régimen actual, ¿qué te garantiza que el nuevo será mejor? De hecho, hasta existe una alta probabilidad de que el vacío de poder llegue a ser aprovechado por facciones mucho más extremistas, ¿no?, como lo es los cuerpos de la Guardia Revolucionaria israelí. Así que, señores, en lugar de tal vez resolver el problema, podríamos estar creando uno mucho peor. Ahora bien, otro punto clave es la preocupación por las instalaciones nucleares en Irán. El general Clark, que vimos, menciona, ¿no?, específicamente Natanz, que es una de las principales plantas de enriquecimiento de uranio del país. Tan solo imagínense, amigos, lo que pasaría si un ataque militar pueda comprometer seriamente esta instalación. Aquí ya no estamos hablando de daños colaterales, sino de posibles fugas radiactivas que afectarían a toda la región. Lo que estamos viendo no solo es una serie de ataques militares, es este pulso geopolítico, ¿no?, entre dos naciones con agendas muy diferentes, porque por un lado Israel busca neutralizar cualquier amenaza nuclear de Irán, mientras que Irán pues lucha por mantener su soberanía y su prestigio, ¿no? Y pues en medio de todo esto tenemos en escena a Trump lanzando mensajes ambiguos que, lejos de querer calmar las aguas, lo único que podría estar haciendo es avivar el fuego. Pero bueno, quiero saber qué opinan ustedes. ¿Creen que Trump está haciendo lo correcto al apoyar a Israel sin límites? ¿O piensan que su actitud podría llevarnos a una crisis aún mayor? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, comparte este contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.